Hello. Today I am going to show you how to create one of these really cool keyring smartphone holders. So the first thing you're going to need to do is go to Tinkercad through Schoology. Remember, you have to go into Schoology, click on that Tinkercad link, and then put in your nickname. Your nickname is your first name, all lowercase, followed by BRMS. Lucas is joining us, so we'll just ignore his little noises. Okay, first thing you're going to do is click Create New Design. Remember, as this video is going, if you need to pause it, just pause it and then come back as you're doing things on your screen. Also, while you're doing this, it's really helpful if you have a mouse. So if you're working on a laptop, you can borrow a mouse from one of the desktop computers, but make sure you put it back before you leave the class. You can also just do it on one of the desktop computers. Okay, you need to change this up here to lesson 4. I'm going to put lesson 4 demonstration since this is my demonstration video. You just have to put lesson 4. Okay, next we're going to drag a box, one of these red solid boxes, onto the work plane. Then you're going to click here because this gives you the Y and the X coordinates. And we're going to change this one, the Y, to 70 millimeters. And then we're going to change this one to 30. Now, in order to be able to drag it, you can click on it and move it, but make sure you don't have it selected because then sometimes you change the dimensions of it. So it's easier if you click off and then click back on, click off and then click back on to drag. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in. All right, now I'm going to grab the ruler. I'm going to click on the left and see how this comes up now? That's the Y coordinate. So on the Y coordinate, you're going to change this to 3 because we're making a keychain, so we don't want it to be really thick. All right, so now it should look like that, and we're going to change it to top and flat view. This X will dismiss the ruler, so we're going to go ahead and dismiss the ruler. All right, the next thing we're going to do is drag the cylinder. That's this one right here, the one that's a hole. Because remember, the hole cuts area away from your solid figure. So we drag that out. And I'm going to click here, and that brings up the dimensions again. If I click, I'm going to change this to 5 millimeters and this one to 5 millimeters. Now I need to move it onto the rectangle. If I grab it right now, it's going to change the size of this cylinder. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click away. Then I'm going to put my mouse back on it, click without letting go, and drag it. Now we're going to make these rounded corners. So since I know I'm going to cut away this space, I'm going to stick this about right here. Okay? So it should look like this now. Now I want it to cut. Just sticking it on there is not going to cut it. And I can view this. It should be like this, where it's going to make that hole all the way through the bottom. So that shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to go back to top view. I'm still flat. All right. So you can do this one of 2 ways. You can drag and make sure that it's selected over here, or you can click the rectangle, hold down Shift, and then click the cylinder. And again, it does the same thing. Most of the time, I just do it this way because I think it's just quick and easy. Once it says 2, you're not done because this just means you've selected both shapes. Now you have to click here on Group, and that cuts the hole out where your key ring will go to create this keychain. All right. So next we want to create the rounded corners, and in order to do that, we need a shape called a meta fillet. So we're going to come over here on this drop down and go down to Shape Generators and then All. Okay, so now I see all these different shapes here. We don't actually need any of these. So we're gonna go down to the bottom where it tells us the page numbers. And we're gonna go all the way to page 12. The metafillet used to be in the featured shapes, but for some reason it's not. So now we've gotta go all the way to page 12 to find it. And here it is, metafillet. So we're gonna bring the metafillet out. And we're going to change it from a solid to a hole because this is going to cut away at the corners and give us some rounded corners. The next thing we're going to do is click here, and we're going to change the dimensions to 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. All right. Now we have 4 corners, so we need 4 metafillets. So I'm going to click on it, so make that go away, and I'm going to click Control C, that copies my metafillet. And now I'm going to put Control V as in violin, because that's going to give me another one. And once I do that, I'm going to click on it and drag it away. And then I'm going to do another one. Remember, I have to make sure it's not selected in order to drag it, or it's going to change the size of my metafillet. So I click off and then click and drag. All right, so now I have 4. So this one is easy because I can just slide this one right here. We want to make sure those blue outer lines are on the outer lines of the red rectangle. Now this one, if I click here, I know I need it to turn this way to 90 degrees. So you can either turn the wheel. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it is not. Or you can come over here and type 90 degrees and hit enter. So now I can drag this one over here. Okay, now this one actually needs to be turned, what? Okay. All right. This one is actually going to be negative 90. So again, you can type negative 90, or you can do what I did and turn the wheel. This one actually has to be negative 180. All right. Once you're done on that, you are going to, again, select all of it so that it says, 5 shapes, and then cut by grouping it. Okay, let's say you do this and it actually leaves some of the red rectangle. This means that something was off with your metafillet. So what I would do is hit undo, and I would go to the metafillets that are messed up, and I would delete them and do them over. I would take one of the ones that's working, like say this one actually worked, and cut it away. And I would do Control C, Control V, copy it, turn it again, and then put it back on. I found that that's the easiest way if that's happening, because usually if that's happening where it's leaving a piece of the rectangle, it's because when you were dragging it, you accidentally changed the dimensions of the metafillet. All right, so it's cut away now. So now I've got our rounded corners, so that's pretty awesome. In this next step, you have to measure your cell phone, okay? So when you're measuring your cell phone, if I'm looking at my cell phone from the side, I'm measuring from the top to the bottom of the side of the cell phone, okay? Okay, so let's pretend that this keychain is your cell phone, okay? So you've turned your cell phone sideways. You're gonna use a ruler in the classroom. There's some on the screen on the side of the classroom where I usually give instruction. There are rulers in the basket. They're the bendy rulers. You're gonna use the centimeter side of the ruler, okay? So the centimeter side, and you're going to take the centimeter side and measure from here to here, okay? Now I need you to look at the ruler and know that from 0 centimeters to 1 centimeter, so that's your first black line to the number 1, there are 10 millimeters in that space. So each one of those lines in between is a millimeter. Each one of those spaces really is a millimeter, okay? So when you're measuring, I want you to think in millimeters. So if your phone width from here to here is 1 centimeter, it's really 10 millimeters, okay? When I measured my iPhone with the case on from here to here, it was 12 millimeters. Now, some of you, or some in my A group, they had thicker cases, thicker phones. Some were 15 millimeters, some were thinner, some were 10 millimeters. So it's really going to depend on your phone. You can also ask the sub in the classroom to help you with the measurement there. But from here to here on your phone is what you're measuring, and that's very important. Once you figured out how many millimeters it is, then we can move on to the next step. So I'm going to go to top. If you haven't figured out the width of your phone, you need to do that. Pause this video, do that, and then come back. All right, so we're going to go back now to basic shapes. And we're going to scroll up to the top and choose the box. Okay? And I'm going to put mine right here. I thought, if this is where my keys are, then I want my phone to be sliding in somewhere over here. It's not really important which side you put it on. You could put it on this side, maybe in the middle. That's really up to you. But I thought this looked the best. Then you're going to click here. You're going to leave this part, but change this to whatever size your phone was. So mine was 12 millimeters, so I'm going to put 12. And it's going to make that size space there. Once you do that, you're going to select both again, group to cut the hole out. Okay, so you have created now a keyring smartphone holder. The next step would be to make it look cool. You can add some text by dragging the text out onto the work plane. And you can resize the text by clicking these corners. You can turn it. You can change the color, but it doesn't really matter because when we print it, the color of this keychain is going to be whatever color filament we put in the 3D printer. But if you want to do it just for the sake of doing it, you can. Then you click here and you click text and you change it to whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to put Allah. All right, the next thing with this shape that's important. If you remember, our keyring was 3 millimeters in height. Okay, that was how thick it was. We want to make this text 4 because when we put it onto the keyring, we want it to just be right above so that it creates, I'm going to show you, so that it's only just slightly above it. Okay? When you're done with that, you're going to group them. Now, because the text is a solid, it's not going to cut it away. It's just going to make it part of the whole keyring to print. Okay? Okay, the last thing I want to show you is that if you want to use the text, that's how you use the text. There's also this feature called Scribble, and it's pretty neat. You drag that out, and it's going to pop up with this screen. So at this screen, you can scribble with your mouse. Yep, I'm gonna try to make Allah in cursive. Okay, and it shows you a preview of what it will look like on the work plane. So that's really neat. Another cool feature with this is that On my computer, I actually have a pen, so I can use my pen on my touch screen. See how much better my handwriting looks when I'm not using the mouse. So that's a neat feature, especially if you can write on the screen with your pen. And then you click done, and now it's on the work plane. You can resize it. You can make sure you change the height to 4. And then zoom out, and you could stick it onto your keychain if you want to. So that's how we make the keychain. When you're done, make sure it is saved as lesson 4. Remember, Tinkercad automatically saves because we're going to print these next week. We can fit 9 on one build plate, so we're going to get them all printed out so that you have a cool little 3D printed keyring smartphone holder. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and make sure you get everything submitted that's due this week by Sunday at midnight. All right, talk to you later.